Hello there, Qckslvrslash, and today we have a video courtesy of V-Rody18 in the Tier 10 French battleship, the Republique. And this game came to me a couple weeks back, but with me wrapped up in Ranked, I just wasn't finding as much time to record, and I had just put out a battleship video, but it's coming to you in its own due course. Now, one of the things I'm going to ask is, I've switched up some audio settings once again, a couple comments about kind of bitrate artifacts, so I'm trying to change up how I'm recording or what I'm recording with to see if it improves. So any comments on the audio quality are always appreciated. It's something I find I'm always chasing down because I just don't always hear some of the things other people are hearing. Anyways, back to the game. As you can see, playing on Northern Lights, just like yesterday's Chapayev game, but the difference here being this is not a ranked game, and it sounds like V-Rody is going a little crazy with the ship horn. You'll look and notice a lot of Asachios, and this game came, I think, the day the Asachio was released, so it makes sense. And being in a battleship, Rody definitely has to worry about them because it's one of the few ships that destroyer can actually damage with its torpedoes. The plus side being, there are not a lot of tier 10s in this game. Very light on the 10s. This is pretty much the dream matchup. And, well, Rody opens up with a volley of HE. And he had it loaded from the start, and I have no issue with that. He took a shot at the first target he saw, but he clearly had it loaded, thinking, hey, what if I see a destroyer or something that the HE's going to hurt? Plus, at those long ranges early on, you're not always going to get ideal shots on a battleship. Now, the first volley there definitely hurt the line, lit him on fire, so almost 10k by the time the fire was put out. But this second volley with AP absolutely wrecking the lion, and up to almost 25,000 damage shortly into this game, and that line still sailing broadside on. You can see Rody switched back to HE. Knowing that he had lit the one fire and that it had been damage control, it makes sense to go for a second one, especially being the parting shot. Now clearly he knew AP could do a lot of damage, but I don't mind the use of HE there. You've got a target that's about to disengage, and now there's a permafire on him, and that's going to build and tick. But there's no time to dwell on targets past, because here we have an Otago, the floating citadel that she is, sailing broadside in, close in. Sadly, every single shell overpenning. You can see the secondaries starting to go to work, which makes me think that Rody's got a bit of a minor secondary build going on here. Maybe not entirely, but perhaps in trying to boost some of the AA performance, the secondaries have seen a boost as well. And the Otago turning pretty much through 180 degrees. This time, the shells finding that citadel, erasing the Tier 8 premium cruiser very effectively. Got some enemy torpedo bombers coming in, but with them being Tier 8 carriers, you don't feel as threatened by these. You know, the Republique, may not be known for having this stunning AA. I think by the time you get to the Tier 10 BBs, they're all fairly similar, with some exceptions, the Yami being a little weaker. But you basically, at Tier 10, you can't dodge Tier 10 carriers. So it's not too often that you actually put really any work into your AA. Maybe a bit if you've got the points, but I find for the most part, people tend to focus on, things like the kind of zombie build, making them more resilient to fires and floods, that improved ability to use damage control, because you're going to get focused down with HE nowadays. And Rody kind of just keeps sailing about, firing the guns, and getting some good shots in. The last volley on that North Carolina was a single citadel. This one, no citadels, but still 8,000 damage. The secondaries shooting over his shoulder at the Loyang, which gets finished off by the friendly Asachio. And, well, things are proceeding half decently. Both teams are down 3 ships. No real big surprises there. random battles, you tend to lose a couple early. That volley overled, all sliding down the bow of the North Carolina. And looking at where ships have spread out, Rhodey's in a pretty good spot here. We've got the North Carolina, Montana, the Lions coming over this way. There appear to be some Masaccio torps in the water, but they're spotted early enough by the Fletcher that you know you've got to get turning, get that bow over. And even better, this North Carolina looks to pretty much have sailed himself up against an island. Now getting work down to about half health, time to use that repair party. The shells are in the air at the North Carolina. The ship's still finding a way to go just a little further aground, so they don't quite hit where needed, but now that North Carolina is reversing, and with this very fast rate of fire that the Republique has, it can really take advantage of ships in those positions. Another 6k there, the damage just adding up to 132,000 damage done. Already 1.1 million potential damage fired his way, and here's the Lion turning perfectly broadside on. And these British cruisers, my god, these British battleships to me really are one of the ideal targets for the Republique to engage. They're just soft enough that they sop up so much damage and just eat it, that your rate of fire, you can really make work on them. And for some reason, they just seem to sail broadside on, thinking they're immune to citadels. Which, sure, maybe they don't get citadeled a lot, but I recall a ranked game I was in where our Conqueror thought he could just sail broadside onto a Yami all game, and the Yami triple sit him. So even in battleships, you have to be cognizant, even if you're not known for being, heavily damageable like that. So looking what's going on at the map right now, I would be turning around, and it looks like Rhodey is thinking the same thing. Get the ship heading back towards the cap. There's not a lot to do out here. And just as I say that, reverses the rudder to start going north. I just really don't feel there's a huge advantage in being out on the flank, getting stuck behind these islands. You've got a North Carolina and Montana, so there is some damage to be had and some ships to kill, but you've got an Alabama and an Otago out there, working them down. Reasonably, I think going back to base would be the safer choice, because the last thing you want in this situation, and I don't know if it's the case, but a Lion and a Ibuki, the Kagro, it's close quarters, couple destroyers on it, the Lion's closing in. I expect that Kagro to start disappearing pretty quickly if things focus it. And just like the Otago, the Ibuki can find itself dead in a hurry if a battleship gets its side. So really the last thing you want is to lose that flank. But Roddy decides, no, I'm going to push on, taking more shots at that North Carolina. Still hasn't managed to finish him off, but hopefully as the ship tries to turn around the corner, gets some better damage in. You can see the choice of HE. I assume that is because it was paying more attention to me, and that North Carolina has actually damage controlled. With it going behind an island, once again, a smart choice. You may get a kill shot using AP here with it angled like that, but if you can light a fire and keep it burning, that pretty much guarantees the North Carolina's death. And 2,500 damage takes out 13 AA mounts and lights a fire. So let's just watch the damage, and yes, it is still ticking, so the North Carolina is going to burn. Now, the downside to HE damage, obviously, all of it can be repaired. So if that North Carolina is able to stay dark long enough, it's going to come back on full health. But that's the risk you take. You can see the Shokaku taking out the Lion, and the friendly cap is starting to fall. Now there are more ships over here, the Musashi coming over to help out. So there is a lot of attention this way, and almost most importantly, the Lion has turned around. I think the enemy team feels pressure on their cap and is deciding, oh, we've got to go defend this. The last volley dropping a Citadel into that Montana, and with her not really moving, hopefully this next one can do the same as the Musashi drops some shells from 18 kilometers away. Thankfully, not doing too much damage there. And one of the things I didn't realize the first time I watched through this, but that is a fellow clanmate of mine in the enemy carrier, Copenhagen. He's probably a little tilted right now because this many ships shouldn't be losing this fight here. But because of how they're playing, they kind of are. And you've got 3 BBs that had an Alabama and a Otago to deal with, and they weren't able to. And you can see the North Carolina, it managed damage control, and it is now healing. The friendly Alabama gets taken out, so okay, that's 1 fewer ship. But Cope there in the Qckslvrslash is in a dangerous spot. Basically no way he's going to be able to go dark. He will be able to defend himself to a degree, but once again, in a tier 8 carrier against tier 10, even a battleship, it's going to be able to defend itself. And you can see the friendly carrier going for the strike, and really it's just a matter of trying to work one of these targets down. And that's one of the things that frustrated me watching this side of the flank, was the shots seem to be spread out. Now that North Carolina's been floating around on kind of 10k health for quite some time, but both Rhodey and his allies have been shooting other ships. Now, granted, he was not detected for a period of time, but the second he popped back up there, you want to focus it down. In a situation like this, when the enemy team's got a kill lead, you need to remove targets. That's really what you should be thinking about, and now he is. You can see the carrier coming in for a drop there. It looks like it dropped at the Otago. A Citadel dropping into the North Carolina, taking one of the enemy ships out, and that's huge. The big threat here, though, is that Asashio sitting on the other side of an island. You know it's probably almost got its torps back, and it can come racing around a corner. Because the planes are spotting Rhodey here, there's no way to really get the drop and surprise the Asashio with your guns pointing the other way. The Montana choosing to edge forward. The front gun's just not quite able to connect, but it looks like one of the Otago's volleys of torps is going to. There's the enemy DD. So with him over on the right, it's time to get moving forward. The secondaries are focusing him down. You can see him getting the main guns around. Well, main gun, the front one having been incapacitated. And really, this is a situation where, once again, finish the Montana. Yeah, there's a DD there. Yeah, he's going to be a pain in the butt. Got the Musashi coming around, but you just need to finish targets. And sailing forward at the Montana, you do run the risk of getting kind of janked. But the Otago finishes them off with torps, and a great volley there at the Musashi, finishing off a dangerous ship. And you can see Cope here doing everything he can, charging in, getting those secondaries into play. Knowing he's pretty screwed, I also think he's probably pretty much out of aircraft. In the meantime, the friendly cap is under contestation, but with an Ibuki and Kagro there, you don't have to worry too much about it getting taken. Now the Ibuki looks to be off chasing that enemy DD, but the Kagro is going to keep him spotted, and it just takes one shot every once in a while to reset a cap. You don't have to continuously be shooting whoever is there. And it's finally a showdown with the Lion. The first target to get hit, gonna be one of the final ones. Torpedoes just skating by. A good hit on the Lion, one more like that, and the Lion should be done. And with the rate of fire of the Republique, you're gonna have the volley first. It's in the air. The secondary is managing to light a fire, but it's the main guns that finish her off. Picks up the Kraken and a kill, and almost edges in on 350,000 damage. The rune gets finished off in the friendly cap, and that pretty much secures this game. Simply because there's not much those enemy DDs can do about the Ibuki. They can do a lot of damage to Roddy here in his Republique or the Qckslvrslash, but they're not really going to be able to do anything about the Ibuki. And at this point, it's a waiting game. You wait this game out, 5 more minutes, you win. So all the Ibuki and Kagro really have to do is go sit in the friendly cap and just wait for the enemy DDs to show up. Even a couple kills, I don't think is enough to flip the points now. So really you don't have to worry about that. And there's nothing out there near the Shikaku to be torping it. So even if Roddy goes down here, it should be a win. And a very healthy one at that. Picking up 3 of those heroic wards and almost the damage record at the time on the NA server for this ship. It was a few hundred damage off. And you can see he's looking over there, kind of expecting, I think, where the Asashio would be, but also just trying to get the guns around early. No matter, the CV spots him, volley goes out, and really at this point, it is just a waiting game. You can see the Ibuki kind of putting himself in a position to keep that enemy destroyer from getting to cap, and this one is all but over. So let's just jump to the post-battle screen. And it turned out to be quite the impressive game. 632,000 credits, 14,000 experience, Confederate, Dreadnought, Kraken, High Caliber, 352,000 damage. And when I was sent this game, it was something like 1,000 damage off of being the server record. Now, that very well could have changed by now, but at the time, it was impressive. Did I disagree with some of the things he did? Yeah. But people are allowed to disagree, and I think that's one of the issues that causes so much salt in ranked. Everyone thinks this is the way you do it, it's the only way to do it. You do something different, they question you for it, even if it works. I've seen games where, on hotspot, a Zhao goes up the 1-2, gets behind the enemy team and works them down, and a friendly destroyer, despite it being a complete walk over the enemy team, is complaining the whole time that Zhao was useless. So, be open to the fact that other people have other ideas and they can work too. You see it all the time in clan battles. Things you never expect, and they work. Top a team, no real surprise there with that kind of damage and that many kills, plus a handful of planes to top it off. It's gonna be a good result, and it's a shame there's nowhere to grind from here, because that would definitely get you there quicker. And when you do look at the damage, it becomes apparent how Rhodey got so much. Huge chunks of damage to battleships, and battleships are where you can get a lot of damage, and then that Atago that he basically erased in a single volley. The first one we'll not talk about because those were all over pets. Took home 287,000 credits and the 14k XP, and overall a fun game to watch. Anyways, I hope everyone else enjoyed this. If you did, please consider giving it a thumbs up or subscribing to the channel, and as always, I am Qckslvrslash. I'll have another one for you all later.